My 2-bucket cyclone because it collects the sawdust into a bucket and it's made out of another bucket. This lid is going to fit on this cut-off bucket, and I want to create a ledge on here so it just tightly fits inside there for a good seal. Almost fits, just a tiny bit less. Now that's a satisfying fit. Here's my actual thin baffle part of it, and that is going to get screwed in through the sides right about here. I have to make sure all the holes are going to be at the same level. And that way the baffle is going to end up in the same level spot. Next, I need to mount this piece of pipe on here for injecting the air into here and spin it around. And that shape is a bit tricky to get, so I drew this one up in CAD. The sides of the bucket are just a little bit conical, so to make this mount fit properly, I tilted the table by 1.8 degrees so that when I cut this out, the circle will make a conical section. I added some bits of plywood here and here just to make sure this isn't going to crack over time. Now I did use one of these drill press circle cutters to cut that hole. If you don't have one, you should really get one. But if you don't want to get one, you can just make a piece of plywood to fit on here and make the pipe fit into that. I need to make sure this ring doesn't slide up and down, especially once I put a vacuum on there. And the logical thing to do would be just to put some screws in from the inside. But I'm experimenting with using a soldering iron to melt some of this plastic together, and that seems to have some limited success. I haven't got a perfect joint in here, so I'm just using some caulking to seal that up. Next I gotta mount this on here, and the tricky part is where does the hole go? But this bucket is a little bit translucent, so just by shining light through here, I can tell roughly where it lines out. With my inlet so far above the baffle, I figure it's best to move the inlet a little bit back from this part here, because when the air shoots out here, it's really not going to get all the way down here. So having placed this, I can now start mounting it. And I'll just start by drilling a hole in here for the first screw. And before I drill any other holes, I'm going to put a screw in here to make sure nothing slides around. I'm going to put just a little bit of caulking on here just to make sure I get a good seal. It's tempting to use just felt for a gasket, But the felt gets caught on the screws when you tighten them, so that always makes a real mess. This is tighter than I was aiming for, but if I can get it in there, I won't have to worry about making a seal, that's for sure. And then this little tube here is for extending into a chamber, which will hopefully make the cyclone work a little bit better. These shop vac hose connectors are just a little bit too small for a 2-inch pipe fitting in here. I could go to 1.5 inch and just pad that up with electrical tape, but I want to have this as big as possible. So looking around, I found this thread coupling adapter, and with the threads filed off of it, that just barely fits in here. That shop vac hose is just too small, keeps plugging up all the time. Well, the idea of attaching it by melting it with a soldering iron didn't work out so well. It let go, there's just too much suction, so I'm back to attaching that bucket rim with screws. For my next test, I brush out the filter from my shop vac, wash the insides of it, and I'm going to use fine sawdust from my bandsaw. So the bucket with the sawdust weighs 1,830 grams, and this time I'm using a much more manly 2-inch hose. A backlight sure makes the cyclone look cooler. Now I just need to get that dust back into this bucket, and I'll just do that by sucking it all through again. So let's see, I can't really tell if this is any dirtier, and in here there is a little bit of dust in here. This used to be scrubbed clean, so we definitely lost some. And let's see how we're doing. 1,824, so we lost 6 grams of dust. With the bucket weighing 1043 grams empty, I worked it out that this cyclone is 99.2% efficient with this fine bandsaw dust. So some of that dust no doubt got stuck in the filter, but another place where dust got stuck is the bottom of my cyclone. There's some on here, and also along the outside edge, and I haven't been able to recover that.